Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to the Conflict of Nick channel. I'm your host Nick, and this is going to be the next video of the Conflict of Nations every unit in the game tier making list. It's a multi-part series, so stay tuned for every part. Links to previous parts will be down in the description, and links to future parts, if they are already uploaded, will be uploaded in the description later on as well. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to. It really helps me grow. And that's all. Enjoy the video. Next up, it's going to be one of the unique fighters. It's going to be the Naval Air Superiority Fighter. The regular Air Superiority Fighter's brother, this is the naval version. Basically, this thing can do what the Air Superiority Fighter can, however this thing can dock on carriers. That's basically about it. It can do a little bit more damage to ships, I think, but really this thing is meant for being carrier deployable, and it's basically got about the same stats as an Air Superiority Fighter would. I would say this thing's about the same, but it's not as good as an Air Superiority Fighter because it requires a higher level airfield to build, and it requires obviously the levels already of an ASF to research higher levels of a Naval ASF. So if you want to get max level Naval ASF, you're going to need max level regular ASF. So I'm going to put these at a simple C tier because of the fact that you don't really need these at all, because air superiority fighters have decent range, and as long as you have a lot of airports that you can manage on land, there's really no reason you need to have these unless you're having a carrier strike group strategy that you want to use these for. They can be very good at defending fleets, but overall air superiority fighters can just get the job done right away, because as long as you manage your airfields properly, they can cover pretty much most of the map besides very deep and isolated oceans. Next up, it's going to be the Naval AWACS. Now this unit, again, is one of those that you just don't really see anywhere. The first time I ever saw this unit in the game is when I used it during a special event when I was using a carrier strike group strategy that you really wouldn't use anywhere besides an event. The Naval AWACS is basically a carrier deployable AWACS that has 225 range at max level. It only gets one level, which is interesting because it's one of the only units besides stealth aircraft that have that. It's got 225 compared to the regular AWACS's 300. It can detect, I think, the same things that a regular AWACS can. I think it can't detect very specific things like low signature specific targets. I think like helicopters. I'm not sure though. I think it can detect low fixed wing aircraft. But what this thing is basically for is to be carrier deployable. But why would you need a carrier deployable AWACS when a regular AWACS can cover, again, most areas of the world besides very isolated oceans with airfields not directly near them? One other thing that the AWACS misses out on, in my opinion, is the ability for it to be ASW. NPAs could literally fill the role of a naval AWACS, because on the ocean you're going to want naval radar. You're going to want to be able to see where subs are, where ships are, and really planes aren't usually always going to be there, and even if you do, your ships are usually going to spot them with their radar, with their 100 range radar. So really I wouldn't bother with these. I would always focus on NPAs and regular AWACS if you want to have a flying radar unit. These are an easy F tier for me because they just don't seem very useful at all. Next up, we have another one of my favorites in the game. It's going to be the Naval Patrol Aircraft. Now, I've been comparing this unit to a lot of vehicles, such as the ASW Heli, Navy version of the AWACS, the Naval AWACS, and a couple other units. The MPA is really good because it gets a very wide sonar range. At max level, it can have a 200 range sonar detection circle, which means it can detect any surface or sonar vessel. So basically nothing is safe besides obviously stealth units like the naval officer, which I believe is the only one that can actually get that as far as a surface vessel goes. So basically you're detecting everything as far as that goes. The MPA also has a very versatile damage count. Max level, a 5 stack of MPAs can do 70 damage to ships and 40 to subs, which means that it can do 14 damage to ships, and it can also do 8 to submarines. It can also launch 2 cruise missiles, which means it's very versatile, especially in events. If you're wanting to launch a lot of cruise missiles at ground targets or sea targets. And overall, these things are very good at covering fleets because you can have a radar range, and obviously, if you see your enemy first, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the first hit off, and getting the first hit off in combat usually means you're going to win that battle. NPAs are just great at what they do. They have huge ferry range. They can traverse most of the world from one airfield. I would say this makes them an easy A tier. Their biggest weakness is frigates and other anti-aircraft, but overall they're just great, and if you run out of cruise missiles or don't even have any, all you have to do is just melee attack as long as you don't think that they're anti-aircraft ships, and you'll do massive damage anyway. Biggest weaknesses is that they're slow, obviously, because they're a heavy aircraft, and they're very vulnerable to things like ASF and AA, so be mindful of that, but all you have to do is just have them in good areas on the map, and especially if you want to create a sonar wall across an ocean to get intelligence or spot enemy ships coming across an ocean like the Atlantic, for example, just make a wall and you'll spot anything. MPs are awesome. The next unit we're going to be going over is one that honestly should be after the strike fighter, but is before on the chart, so we're going to keep it there. The Naval Strike Fighter is obviously a branch off of the regular Strike Fighter, which we haven't covered yet, but we will. And the Naval Strike Fighter is actually better than you'd think. You'd think that I'd place it around where the Naval Air Superiority Fighter is, but you'd probably be wrong. The biggest thing that these are for, obviously they're a carrier-based version of the Strike Fighter. They do, at max level, Strike Fighters are known to do 9 damage to soft and hard targets, which makes them like MRLs. They do the same damage to both classes of targets. But what the Naval Strike Fighter gets to do is that it can do 9 damage to ships as well. So it becomes versatile to another class of units. Not only that, the biggest strategy and upside to getting Naval Strike Fighters, even though you have to research regular Strike Fighters to get them, is for the sole purpose that the biggest reason to get these is to complement regular Strike Fighters. There's a common strategy that I like to use where basically stacking multiple different units in a stack means that you will lose less units because each unit will basically take damage equally. So let's say you have 10 of the same units and you get dealt damage. If you get dealt that damage, you'll probably lose a couple of units because the damage is being ferried into one unit type. If you have 10 different units, you'll have 10 different units, each taking up a portion of that damage. So a common strategy is to have 3 strike fighters and 2 naval strike fighters, or vice versa, and that will basically make your casualty count for your fighter jets basically less than what it would be if you're just using 5 stacks of strike fighters or naval strike fighters. I would say these are an easy B tier, even approaching A tier, because of that strategy alone. It's such an effective strategy, especially for pub matches, because it will just ensure the survivability of your jets, and you can even directly engage some SAM launchers because you can guarantee yourself that you will take less casualties because your HP will be mixed. You just go back and heal, send them out again. I've done this before, it works. The next unit we're going to be covering is going to be the Recon Vehicle. Now, this is one of the units, besides motorized infantry, that you start with at the beginning of every game. You'll probably get 1 to 2, even maybe 3 with larger nations. The Recon Vehicle is good because you can scout exact army compositions with it, you can reveal stealth of things like special forces, and overall, obviously, it's going to count as a little bit of armor in the early game. That's going to be pretty good for your motorized infantry because obviously a Recon Vehicle will make the damage you receive a little bit less. However, it's one of the worst ones in the armor tech tree in my opinion because it's not very healthy. It obviously can't really engage in much direct combat, and really what it's meant for is scouting out and protecting your armies and important units against units like special forces. So I would say that this unit falls at a C tier because it's really situational and you only want to have it in the late game if you're covering units like your armies or your support units. And in the beginning game, these are going to be very useful, but you're probably going to lose them in the beginning game because obviously you're going to be engaging in a lot of melee combat, so these won't last very long. And if you upgrade these, you're probably going to want to have a lot of them because a lot of them probably will die because their hit point count is so low. They deal some damage to armor and infantry, but not as much compared to other units. So I would say not really go for these, but go for units more so like AFVs. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. I am enjoying making this series so far, and obviously it's ended up being more parts than I thought it would be, but we've come this far. So guys, if you enjoy the channel or enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out, and it's the single biggest thing that helps my channel grow and thrive. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you guys disliked it, leave a dislike. And in the comments, if you want to write why you liked or disliked it, feel free to do so. If you have a question or you just want to say hi, you can also do that. I try to react and respond to as many as I can, and if I haven't yet, I will get to it later. So guys, I hope you have a beautiful day. Stay tuned for the future parts. Nick out.